This is the story of one of the scariest things I have ever heard about. And now I'm going to tell you. It happened a few years ago in a small town where everybody knew each other. You know those towns where nothing big ever happens, right? People there are used to quiet, slow days. But this shook them to their bones. It still does. There's this old church at the edge of town. St. Mercy's Church. It's a huge stone building with a tall, broken bell tower and heavy wooden doors. The thing is, nobody really went there anymore. The new church was in town, clean and bright, with warm lights and friendly faces. St. Mercy's just sat there, cold, forgotten, and slowly falling apart. But they never tore it down. It was like people were scared to even touch it, like it wasn't just a building anymore. So, about 5 years ago, there was this group of teens, 4 of them, who thought it would be fun to explore St. Mercy's one night. You know how teens are, daring each other, trying to act tough. They picked a Friday night when the town had a festival going on, thinking no one would notice them sneaking out. It was supposed to be just a quick dare. Go in, walk to the altar, leave something behind and get out. Easy. They didn't even make it that far. One of the boys, Mark, had a camcorder. Old school one. Big, clunky thing. He wanted to film everything, maybe post it online for some laughs later. When they reached the church, the doors were already slightly open. No one had touched them. They just were. Like the building was expecting them. The first thing they noticed when they stepped inside was the cold. And not just, it's old and drafty cold. It was a deep, biting cold, like standing inside a freezer. Their breath showed in the air even though it was late summer. They laughed it off at first, trying to act brave, but Mark's hands were shaking so bad that the footage turned into a blurry mess right away. They moved down the center aisle, their flashlight beams sliding across the ruined pews, broken statues, and dusty windows. The stained glass was cracked in places, and the faces of the saints looked wrong, twisted somehow. Like the broken glass had turned their smiles into something darker. As they reached the front of the church, one of the girls, Sarah, swore she heard footsteps behind them. Slow, heavy ones. They stopped moving. Everyone listened. Nothing. Just the wind rattling the old windows. They laughed nervously, thinking maybe it was the echo of their own steps. But Sarah wasn't laughing. She grabbed her boyfriend's hand and whispered that they should leave. That's when they heard it. A low, deep sound from the back of the church, like a heavy voice mumbling something. It didn't sound like English. It didn't sound like anything they knew. Mark swung the camera around, but the little flashlight attached to it barely lit up the darkness. Still, for just a split second on the recording, you can see something. A figure, standing in the shadows near the entrance. Tall. Wrong-shaped. Like it didn't quite fit the way a person should. Of course, they didn't know that at the time. They only saw it later. Right then, they just screamed and ran. They bolted down the aisle toward the doors, but when they got there, the doors were shut tight. Not locked, just frozen. Like they were part of the stone now. No matter how hard they pulled or pushed, they wouldn't move. Sarah started crying. One of the boys, Dean, kept yelling at Mark to turn off the camera, but Mark was frozen, just recording everything. And then, the singing started. From the balcony above them, where the old choir used to sing, they heard it. Soft voices, rising, together. It should have sounded beautiful. It didn't. It sounded like someone pretending to be a choir, like mocking it. Too many voices. And some of them were just a little too deep, a little too slow. Like something was singing along that didn't belong. They looked up, and the flashlight caught movement. Dozens of shapes. crawling along the walls and ceiling, not walking, crawling, arms and legs bending the wrong way, moving like spiders. Dean lost it. He grabbed a broken bench and threw it at a stained glass window. It shattered, glass raining down everywhere. They climbed through the broken window, cutting themselves on the glass, not even caring. They ran all the way back to town, screaming like crazy. When they got to safety, bloody and shaking, they told everyone what happened. Most people didn't believe them. They said it was teenagers making up ghost stories. But then, Mark showed the tape. People who watched the tape said the same thing. In the footage, you can clearly hear the singing. You can see the shapes. You can see the figure standing behind them when they first entered. And in the last few seconds, right before they smashed the window, you can see something dropping down from the ceiling, reaching for Sarah. If they had stayed even one more second. After that night, St. Mercy's was chained up. Big metal chains across the doors, giant locks, and the town put up signs, "Do not enter." But even now, people say you can still hear the singing at night if you get close enough, especially when the moon is high and the wind is still. Some people claim they see figures in the broken windows, watching, waiting. Mark moved away a year later. Never talked about it again. Sarah refused to even drive near that part of town. Dean got into some trouble, drinking too much, fighting, maybe trying to forget. Only one of them, Katie, stayed in town. She said once, just once, that she dreamed of the church almost every night. In her dreams, she was back inside, but she couldn't move. She was sitting in one of the pews, and the broken statues were all watching her. And something unseen would walk slowly down the aisle toward her. Every single night, it got a little closer. One day, Katie packed up and left too. No goodbye, just gone. The church still stands there, silent, empty. But if you go there, and I'm not saying you should, you might notice something strange. The big chains on the doors, sometimes they look a little loose, like something inside is slowly, patiently trying to work its way free. And if you ever hear singing when you're nearby, don't listen, don't look, and whatever you do, don't go closer. Because some doors, once opened, can never be closed again.